Welcome to another edition of In the Spotlight, brought to you by Crimson Cloak Publishing, the earth-friendly publisher with books for both adults and children in a wide variety of genres, available in paperback and hardcover, as ebooks, and with some audiobooks as well. In the Spotlight is a wide-ranging weekly interview show with authors, entrepreneurs, professionals, and other experts. Your host is Cynthia McGregor. Opinions and views expressed by the guests or hosts on this show do not necessarily reflect the opinions and views of the creator, Crimson Cloak Radio, the network, the hosts, or sponsors. And now, here's Cynthia.
Thank you very much, Carly McCracken, and welcome everyone to another edition of In the Spotlight. My first guest this week is Jacqueliine Glodstein. Jackie is the Executive Vice President for Global Development of the Israel Tennis and Education Centers. She's here to talk about and promote the Israel Tennis and Education Centers Foundation. The Israel Tennis and Education Centers is celebrating its extraordinary legacy, which has taken them from one center in 1976 to 14 and growing strong, while impacting over 500,000 youth in Israel. Over the last 43 years, the Israel Tennis and Education Centers have grown and evolved into one of the largest social service agencies for children in Israel. iTech has transformed the lives of hundreds of thousands of vulnerable children of all faiths, many living on or below the poverty level, by educating and empowering them through academic enrichment, sports, and mentoring, igniting hope and opening pathways to a successful future for them and for Israel, now and for generations to come. This remarkable not-for-profit organization truly embodies inclusion and unity in a region where that is very rare. iTech has created a model of ethnic integration through sports in a safe environment where each and every child is afforded the opportunity to play, dream, learn, and make friends within a peaceful community. Many see the centers within their communities as a stable, nurturing second home that supports them as they develop into productive, healthy, well-rounded adults, with thousands receiving scholarships to university and employment opportunities as a result of their participation. Its impact extends far beyond the children who participate in the programs, making an immeasurable positive impact on the country, the communities surrounding each center, the teachers, coaches, and families of the over 500,000 children who have benefited from iTech. The organization is focused on the core values of education, equality, empowerment, and well-being. Through its social impact programs, a wide range of children are served, including youth at risk, immigrants from Ethiopia and Russia, and children with special needs from autism and ADHD to Down syndrome, as well as those with developmental and physical disabilities. The goal of the Israel Tennis and Education Centers is to ensure that every child in Israel is healthy, educated, equal, and equipped to pursue their dreams without religious, economic, or social barriers, and has the opportunity to reach their full potential. We are so proud of our history, growth, and evolution, they say. It is simply amazing to see how education and empowerment has truly transformed the lives of these children, states Jacqueliine Glodstein, Executive Vice President of Global Development. We teach in an environment of diversity and inclusiveness as we believe this will set them on the path to a brighter future, which they might otherwise not have envisioned. Welcome, Jackie.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here, and thank you for that beautiful and comprehensive introduction, Cynthia.
Well, thank you, or thank Hillary Wiener, who I think wrote it actually. And Jackie, tell us a little more about what the Israel Tennis and Education Center's foundation is and does.
Sure. So, as a foundation, we represent the Israel Tennis and Education Centers abroad. We help to spread the awareness of the work that the need, first of all, in Israel. What it didn't say in that introduction is that most people do know Israel as startup nation and think it's a wealthy country. And actually, there's a significant population of people who live below the poverty line. 36% of the children in Israel live on or below the poverty line. And so we help to raise the awareness and raise the funds to provide the support for children who otherwise would not be able to come to the Israel Tennis and Education Centers and learn life skills and ethics and values and how to function in society, how to socialize, how to work with other people, how to make decisions, and also work with mental health specialists as part of a group that we have curriculum that we follow to teach the children nutrition and other activities that they wouldn't necessarily learn about in school. We offer English language fluency programs where we bring together children who come from different facets of life in Israel, different ethnic and religious populations, and they come to the tennis centers and they learn in a classroom and they learn on the court together, but they speak in English. And that's really a skill that can take children who come from either disadvantaged or impoverished backgrounds or have other challenges in their lives, can take them into a global marketplace and make them much more marketable if they can converse in English. So it's really a jewel of an organization. We're a nonprofit. We were started by volunteers 45 years ago. 6 volunteers who wanted to create some distraction for children, a safe place for them to come after school in the Middle East, where it was a very stressful environment for the children and their families. Kind of like what you're seeing today, actually, after Israel's been hit by hundreds of rockets in less than a 24-hour period. And the kids need some relief and some respite from that environment. And that's how we started. We were bringing tennis to the masses. These volunteers, dreamed of opening one tennis center and creating this nurturing environment, but really had no idea what it would morph into 45 years later.
Jackie, what made you choose tennis as your medium?
It's a good question, Cynthia. I didn't choose it. Those volunteers chose it. So they chose tennis for a few reasons. One, it's viewed as an elite sport, and they wanted to take that elite sport and open it up to the masses, to children who would never even consider the sport. But the other part of it, the significant part of it, is what you learn from tennis. If you look at all the research that's done on sports, tennis is a game that you play and you're on that court yourself. you may be playing with doubles, but there's no coach. And you have to make the calls, and you have to learn how to make the decisions. And you have to learn to win and lose. And you need to develop your self-confidence and your self-esteem. And you learn that you have to follow rules, and there has to be a level of respect between you and your competitor, who might be your best friend off the court. But that if you don't follow those rules, at least at the Israel Tennis and Education Centers, you don't get on the court. And so this creates a structured framework for children where they learn much more than just how to play the game. They learn about how to operate in life, what's important. They learn how to win, and they learn how to lose, and how to overcome those losses. And so because of that framework, the brilliant and zealous founders that we have, who are all volunteers, they chose tennis because they knew what it would offer children.
What do you do about kids whose disabilities make tennis a challenge for them?
It's, that's a beautiful thing to watch. I hope you have one day the chance to visit the centers. So we work, as your introduction said, with children who have physical disabilities, emotional, and mental disabilities. And we work with them in a variety of different ways. Some of it is about exercise and balance, and just helping them enjoy themselves, get out and feel like they're part of a normative experience, that they're integrated into the full center. But we have very specific programs. So we offer wheelchair tennis. We've opened a couple of classes in, a number of our centers. Over the summer, we hosted, or actually it was in the spring, the International World Cup Wheelchair Tournament for adults. But, these athletes were tremendously inspiring. And the kids learn to play within the context of their disabilities, but some of them become really good. For example, we have a young man that I met the first time I visited our centers, when I was offered the position, who has Down syndrome. And Elad was 23 at the time. He had already won several gold medals, silver medals at the Special Olympics. And Elad was the youngest of 5 boys. And when I spoke with Elad, he said to me that he wanted to serve in the Israeli army. And at the time that I met him, his dad came to the international board meetings at our tennis center in Ramat Sharon because he wanted to thank the board for everything that Elad learned at the tennis center that gave him his own life. Before he came to the center, he sat in front of the TV and spent a lot of time, as many of our kids do, on, electronics, but didn't socialize. When he came to the tennis center, he started opening up and blossoming, and he had the drive and the confidence in himself because of what he learned there to start taking buses to get to the tennis center by himself. And eventually he moved out of his parents' home into a group home. And then he told me he was going to apply to serve in the Israeli army, in the IDF. And 6 months later, Cynthia, and I still have the chills from it, and it was 8 years ago, he served in the army. He ran a supply unit. He didn't run the unit, but a supply distribution center. And he won the Soldier of the Year award on Israel Independence Day. And to see how this young man who's now 30 has blossomed in his life, and how knows everyone at the tennis center, and everyone adores him. It opened up a whole new future for him. So it can be really so impactful on kids from so many different abilities. We don't like to call them necessarily disabilities, but everyone has different abilities. You and I have different abilities as well. And it offers the friendship and the compassion and the love that all of us need to, get through life.
Jackie, how long have the tennis centers been in operation?
We are 44 years old. And we intend to be in operation a long time to come. We just opened a new tennis center that we haven't rolled out yet in Kiryat Ono, which is in the region of Tel Aviv. And we are about to open a tennis center in either March or September of 2020 in Sderot. Sderot is the city down south that's closest to the Gaza border, and many of those children have spent all day today in the bomb shelters. So you can only imagine what kind of relief playing a game of tennis and smacking that ball around and just being a kid can do for children that are growing up in that region.
What's the story behind why the tennis centers were founded?
That's a really great question. I mentioned the 6 volunteers. One of the volunteers that organized those 6 volunteers was coming to Israel. His name is Dr. William Lippy. He is an ear surgeon, and he invented a surgery that restores hearing when your ear bone atrophies. And he was going to Israel to teach his surgical procedure to other doctors so that they could perform those surgeries in Israel. So he went for about 40 years, several times a year. But early on, right after the Yom Kippur War, he saw that there was a brain drain that was starting in Israel. A lot of the doctors were considering leaving the country, and he wanted to figure out a way that he could help keep this brain power in Israel, and decided what's the best way to do that. Well, if your children are happy, what's that saying? A mother is the happiest when her children are happy. He decided that he would find something that would benefit the children and help the families stay in Israel. And so he started looking around at different sports, met some of his colleagues who became his co-founders, and they selected tennis. They went around the United States raising money, and in Canada and Great Britain as well. And they built one tennis center in Ramat Sharon. Opened in 1976. They had 250 kids waiting at the gate. The minute they opened the doors, they called it the Chinese drill. The kids flooded in, and fast forward today, we have 14 centers that are located mostly in the periphery of Israel, and those centers serve a mixture of children from different faiths, different socioeconomic levels, different races now in Israel, and it brings religious and secular individuals together and creates that unity and bonding from the ground up between children, and then between their families, because their families come, they hang out at the tennis centers, they make friends with one another, And we hope that one day we'll have the future will look different than it does today in the Middle East.
Wonderful. Now, Jackie, tell our listeners how children's lives in Israel are different from children's lives in the U.S.
Well, we already talked about the poverty line, but children, when they grow up in Israel, are expected to serve in the army. Children, for instance, when they come to our tennis center, this is a very concrete example. The first thing we tell the children on the first day they spend at the tennis center is we have a drill. We drill and we point out where the different bomb shelters are, and we run to those bomb shelters because, God forbid, there's a missile or something else is coming into the country and they need to be protected. They need to go. They need to know where to go. So, that's a big difference. I remember as a child in school having those air raid drills and, having to do duck and cover. But that's what they grow up with. Israel is not a war zone. I don't mean to say that at all. But there's tension and there's worry, and these kids need to learn where to go, God forbid, if something happens. It's also a very mixed population of people that come from, as I said, different faiths and different socioeconomic levels, different countries. It's a huge melting pot. And sometimes those different cultures don't mix. They don't go to the same schools together. They grow up different. They don't grow up knowing one another. And so for these children, when they come to the tennis and education centers, they learn about different cultures, different people. They get to appreciate diversity. And then they have to serve in the army. So they delay their education. And some of them take more difficult positions than others in the army, more challenging positions. And then they only start their life after that. They go on to college. If they want to play professional tennis, they go on to the circuit. So they grow up faster in Israel. They have more responsibility. Yet they have a vibrancy and a joie de vivre because they live every moment of life and celebrate when they can.
What are some of the programs besides just playing tennis that the kids are involved in?
So tennis is the core. Everybody who comes to the tennis centers is taught tennis. But we have what we call social impact programs. So we look at the needs of the children, the unmet needs of the children in Israel, and what are our internal core competencies at the tennis center? How can we help meet those needs? And we've developed programs for children with special needs of differing abilities that we talked a little bit about before. We've developed programs for children who come from immigrant backgrounds. Their families have just come to Israel, and they're just their parents. If they have two parents, sometimes they only have one parent. Sometimes they don't really have parents around too often. They need help integrating into Israeli society. They make friends at the tennis centers. Their coaches become their educators and mentors and guide them about what to study in school, about where to go to buy a particular kind of food that they need, etc. We serve many, many, many youth at risk. We partner with the social welfare department in Israel, with schools. Children are referred to us, with other NGOs. And our organization is known in the communities, in the municipalities, for helping to stabilize the city. Children's academic performance improves, as well as their behavior in school and outside in the community and at home. And then we have our coexistence programs, but throughout our centers, we have children with different backgrounds integrated through the centers. We really are centers of inclusion. And then those children who are part of those programs have equal opportunity to advance into our talent programs and our junior development programs, and ultimately our high performance programs, because we want every child who has talent to have that opportunity to grow and to develop and mature into the sport if that's something that's important to them. But for us, it's not about producing professional tennis players. It's about creating a love of tennis, a lifetime sport, the lifetime understanding of the importance of health and wellness and exercise and how you take care of your body and your soul.
Jackie, we have 3 minutes left. First, please, most important, how can people get involved or help?
Well, thank you. First of all, we would love for our audience to meet our children. We bring teams of children from the Israel Tennis and Education Centers several times a year. We host exhibitions throughout the country where people can come and watch them play tennis, but more importantly, hear about the impact on their lives. We need people to host these events in their community. We do other types of creative events. For instance, we just held an Israeli shuk in New York City with some of our alumni who spoke, but people came and they had a good time and danced and ate good food and felt like they were in Israel for the evening. So we'd love people to call, go on our website, call us. We need many volunteers for these events and for hosting children when they're coming into the States and to come visit us when they're in Israel. So our website is www.itecenters.org, itechcenters.org.
Okay. And in the 2 minutes remaining, can you give a quick overview of some of the impact of the organization in Israel and globally?
Absolutely. So I'll start globally. We have taken the model of tennis and education that the Israel Tennis and Education Centers has created and developed and fine-tuned over the years. And we have brought it to other countries and other cities here in the United States. We've developed some exchange programs. So, for instance, on our website, you can see a video of the exchange program that we developed with the Arthur Ashe Center in Soweto, South Africa. And we brought them to Israel after a number of exchanges to experience the country. We have developed in some of the cities, like in Philadelphia and in Youngstown. In Youngstown, we helped a board member build a similar program for the inner city of Youngstown and Warren, Ohio. The impact locally in Israel has been phenomenal, not just on the over 500,000 children, but on their families and their communities. We have thousands of young people who have grown up in the tennis centers. Some of them have become professional, a very small percentage have become professional tennis players, but many have become our staff, our coaches, our managers. They've developed tennis as a career, and they've done very well by it. Others have gone on to develop professions in other arenas. Many of our kids who have talent have received tennis scholarships here in the United States for universities, have come to the United States, never would have had that experience. and have studied here for free, and are either going back to Israel or serving as ambassadors in their workplaces here in the United States. So through tennis, these children have been able to hope, dream, and then really realize their dreams by working towards their goals.
Thank you very much, Jacqueliine Glodstein.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Tennis and Education Centers, and it's been a pleasure having you on. Take care.
Thank you for hosting us, and it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you. Bye-bye now. Now it's time for a commercial before we go to our next guest. Crimson Cloak Publishing proudly presents 3 ebooks for $5. Good at www.crimsoncloakpublishing.com. Be sure to use the discount code 3453 FOR5 3FOR5 at checkout. Good on any ebooks $3.99 or less. Customers still must pay sales tax. Good for the month of November 2019. Okay, and now it's time to bring on our next guest, Sherlann Moore. Sherlann? Hi.
Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you. How are you?
Fine. And you?
Good, I'm great. Thank you. Thank you for asking. Let me tell our listeners a little about you. Sherlann, otherwise known as SD, S as in Sherlann, D as in, I don't know what it stands for, but D as in dog.
Diamond, dear.
Diamond. Sherlann, D as in Diamond, Moore, Moore, is a multiple award-winning author and screenwriter who writes in spite of being a brain and heart-damaged Air Force veteran with lupus. She is the multiple award-winning scriptwriter of Perfectly Normal in Flagstaff, which was adapted from her dramatic comedy Before We Were Perfect. The screenplay won Best Adapted Script at the 2019 Las Vegas Black Festival, Best Feature Script in the Top Indie Film Awards, a Silver Screen Award in the Nevada International Film Festival, and became an official finalist in comedy in the Las Vegas Film Festival. Wow! Sherlann is also the author of Reader's Favorites International Gold Medal winning first place horror novel Wicked Prayers, the multiple award-winning children's series The Adventures of PJ and Split Pea, and Basics to Business, Minding Your Business with Excel. She is also a patented inventor of the portable hot sink system, has an ABD toward a doctorate of education, holds dual master's degrees in management and human resource development. Her new dramatic screenplay titled Stronger When She's Broken, is based on Moore's inspiring journey before and after sustaining brain damage while in the military. In Moore's soon-to-be-released nonfiction book, Write It, she shares odd exercises she uses to stimulate her brain to unblock her writer's block. Welcome, Sherlann.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Well, I'm glad to have you here. What inspires you to write?
Real life. It could be anything, but as you know, as you just stated, I experience a lot of health challenges. So having I'm a stroke survivor, so this is how I sustained my brain damage while in the military. I also have a hole in my heart, so I have cardiovascular issues that pop up often, and I have lupus, which basically attacks any organ in my body anytime it pleases. And so it's just real life and dealing with other people. I could be at an appointment or something and see a couple of people talking about nothing in particular, but I could find that quite amusing, and then that'll inspire me to write something. But usually it has something to do with my personal life. And sometimes it's a word. Someone used the word situationally the other day, and I wrote that down. I said, I'll probably have to write 2 pages so that I can tuck that word in there somewhere. I'll have to use situationally. And it'll be related to the military some kind of way. So, yeah, real life.
Is a lot of what you write related to the military?
Yes, but not in a way that you might think. So it's not like kind of like a Hurt Locker story, but because probably about 30 years of my life involved dealing with the Department of Defense, either as a military member or as a civilian, then a lot of that kind of creeps in, maybe some of the lingo, some of those kinds of experiences or something.
Sherlann, you've written nonfiction, horror, romantic comedy, children's books, and a screenplay. Is it difficult to switch between genres?
The damage to my brain is to my communication sector. I only have one half of the communication sector. And I think that because my brain rewired itself, that it's probably easier for me to compartmentalize different genres. So I can move between multiple genres: comedy, horror, children's books, nonfiction, and it doesn't affect me. And for some people, they're only like one-trick ponies, and I don't mean to disparage anyone, but I think my brain is so scrambled in a way that it allows me to spin a lot of plates at one time, and it doesn't bother me now, I should say.
Which of your stories best describes you as a person?
Ooh, probably Wicked Prayers. And I think that in spite of anything else that I write, I think that will always be the story that will encompass most of who I am as a person. I am Autumn Town. All of the creatures were developed based on my health issues. Ulugazi is the stone warrior, and that's based off of the fact that I developed rheumatoid arthritis a little bit in my collarbone, and so that really inspired me to create that creature. Dale Cameron is the hero in it, and I divided up my personality to create all of the characters in the book. I know that sounds kind of schizophrenic, but he's a war veteran who deals with PTSD, and he's a lot more analytical. Jack Richards is his partner, and he's more into holistic health and spiritual. So, like I said, it really involves a lot of what's happening with me. The Leapers are also creatures that are spun off from the main villain. And the fact that I have lupus that leaps around my body is how I came up with the leapers, because they're vicious and terrifying, and they leap all around. But then I injected a lot of comedy into the book too, because I tend to approach things with a lot of humor. So I know it sounds kind of dreadful when I say things about my health, but honestly, I do make a lot of jokes about it. Because,
hey, sweetie, I've got health issues too. I can totally relate.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to laugh to keep from crying.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I think Wicked Prayers, and then, of course, the new story, Stronger When She's Broken, will definitely be a realistic look at what my journey has been slightly before, during, and after I got out of the military. And it just a lot of crazy challenges from a woman's perspective, being in the military and having Gulf War syndrome, and being rescued by the Kurds, and just a lot of different kinds of things that you probably would never expect from a female perspective, being in the military.
Tell us about the awards you've won for your literary works. We touched on some of them in the introduction, but go on and elaborate.
I think that the first award was for the children's book, and it was my second children's book, Nothing But the Tooth. It's when PJ loses his tooth before he has to have school pictures taken, and he is just insistent on buying a new tooth or getting a tooth replacement. And I entered that in a book competition, Reader Views, and won first prize. I was shocked.
Wow.
And so this is the brain damaged, person here winning an award. So I'm like, okay. So then I wrote Wicked Prayers and didn't think much of it, and entered it into Reader's Favorites International Book Competition. I was at Michael Callahan Hospital because I was really, really sick, and I was seeing a cardiologist. And then he explained to me that, not only do you have a hole in your heart and lupus is basically trying to kill you, but you've got lupus too. Congratulations. I'm like, oh my gosh. He says, if we don't get your blood pressure under control, it doesn't look good. And I received a text message from Reader's Favorites that says, congratulations, you just won first prize in horror. I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm dying and winning at the same time. How does one reconcile that situation in their mind, So I did that. But then after getting that bit of news from the doctor, I was just gobsmacked that I'm dealing with this. And, it doesn't look good. And I decided to go off and get a huge bottle of Remy Martin, and hey, if you're going to go out big. And I came home, and I know this is going to sound crazy. I probably shouldn't say this on the radio. Bagged up all of my Holy Jane undergarments, and decided I didn't want to be found dead in bad undies. And then I just it was weird. It was weird. And then I kind of wanted to make sure that if I was going to be found, I'd be found a certain way. And I went downstairs to get some water, and my muscles weakened on me, and I fell down on my knees. And it was hard for me to get up the stairs, but then I got up. And I remembered my father saying to me, sometimes when you fall down, there won't be someone there to pick you up, and you have to get up on your own, and you have to dig deep, and then that way you'll find a pocket of faith in you. And when you do, and you're able to stand on your own, you will find the power. And I stood up, and I came upstairs, and I sat down at my laptop, and I wrote this story called Before We Were Perfect. And for the first time in my life, I decided to adapt that into a script. And I've never written a movie script, but I looked up how to do it and did it.
Right on.
And so I entered it into a bunch of film festivals and started winning. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm dying and winning again. And, so, when it won Best Feature Film, Best Feature Screenplay in an indie competition, and then it won the Silver Screen Award in the Nevada International Film Festival. And so I'm like, well, shoot, I'm going to enter it into the Las Vegas Black Film Festival. Louis Gossett was in that. I'm going to do it. And my family came out. I was nominated. I took a limousine. I'm like, I'm breaking open the piggy bank. I'm going big or I'm staying home. And I showed up. They had a carpet out there. I was interviewed and stuff. And they called my name. And I won. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm dying and winning at the same time. And so now I go around and I do guest speaking. And I guess my goal is to encourage people that even though, you're faced with the worst situation, the worst news of your life, don't give up, keep going after your dreams. And I tell them all the time that it wasn't until they told me that I was dying that I actually started living my dreams.
So how long have you been living with a hole in your heart now?
Apparently, I was born with it, and I did not know it.
Oh, goodness.
I know. I had no idea.
So this is not a result of your armed forces service or anything?
No, and I probably should not have joined. And I think ignorance is bliss. And I did have some challenges along the way, and they couldn't figure out what it was. But finally, this echocardiogram showed that I actually have a hole in my heart. That explains a lot. But you just keep going. I'm like a little Energizer bunny now. I just whatever. I'm just going to keep doing it.
Friends call me. People call me the Energizer bunny because I just keep going and going and going and going.
And that is wonderful. That everybody needs that. They need your light, I'm so glad to hear that.
Well, I'm glad to meet a fellow Energizer bunny.
Yes.
Now, Sherlann, in case one of your stories should get to grace the big or small screen, which story would you like it to be?
Ooh. Oh, wow. Okay. I would prefer it if Wicked Prayers actually became a mini-series. But I think the one that probably will make it to the big screen will be Stronger When She's Broken. I just do. Yeah.
And is that a fiction or a nonfiction work?
Stronger When She's Broken is nonfiction.
Ah.
Yeah, and so that's why I think that it will cost it won't cost as much to bring it to the big screen, and it's like I said, it's a very interesting journey from a woman's perspective of before I joined the military, joining them and being in the military and experiencing what I experienced, but then I was in there during the Gulf War, and I was sent on a mission to do something recreational and ended up in a whole situation with the Kurds and almost getting stabbed in a market and just a bunch of stuff. It's just changed my life. Yeah, I think that will probably be the one.
How old were you when you first started writing?
Let me see. It was probably 1990. I was probably about 30, early 30s. Early 30s, yeah.
And what are you working on now?
The screenplay and People want to know how I overcome writer's block with brain damage. So I started writing a book. Sorry. I started writing a book called Write It, and I actually included some of the weird exercises that I've done, physical exercises. And then I came up with a way for people to kind of mimic brain damage without hurting themselves. But it's a way of doing it. But the whole focus of the book is to help writers write. And to get through their writer's block, and when you're done with these exercises, I mean, they're pretty intense, then you'll be able to, I'm telling you, you'll be started on some sort of, whatever your writing project is, you will have your characters fleshed out, and it's pretty intense, though, for people who are willing to undergo it. And, and there's the other book, too. I wanted to show people how writers, book writers, how to write screenplays. And so I'm almost finished with that one. How do you do all of this at the same time and manage being sick with lupus? It's difficult. But I meet a lot of writers, and they're trying to figure out, how did you do it? I have a whole brain, and I can't figure out how to write a screenplay, because there are no books out there that speak to us as book writers. And so I'm probably saying too much about that project right now. So that's all I'm going to say. That's it.
Before we go any further, and we are going to go further, but I want to make sure that our listeners know where to buy your books. You have a website?
Yes, I do. I have, the books are listed on my website with links, and that is at SD Moore Author. That's S as in sugar, D as in diamond, Moore, M as in Mary, OORE, author.com, sdmooreauthor.com.
And that's where to buy your books.
Yes, and well, my books are available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. You can go to your local bookstore and order them. I think there's some brick and mortar stores that carry them. I know Walmart, they carried my books too. So online, you'll find them online.
Are you published with one publisher or varied publishers?
Varied publishers. Yeah, I'm saying I think you stop saying that's terrible. Pardon me, audience. That's really terrible. Various publishers, yes.
I wouldn't imagine that a horror publisher would want children's books and so on.
There lies my rub, because most publishing companies want you to be pretty much a one-trick pony, or you need to write in the genre they want you to write in. I tend to write in all genres, okay? And if I had another one of me that I could direct to actually write a stage play, because I've got that in my head too, and I've written songs for it and everything. So I'm one of I woke up from my brain damage with all of these new skills, and so yeah, you're right. It's difficult for someone to sign me because I'm all over the place with what I write. Yeah.
I have the same situation myself, so I hear you loud and clear. You want to read us something from one of your books? You got about 5 minutes.
I'm sorry. Say again, ma'am.
You got about 5 minutes. You want to read us something from one of your books?
Wow. That was, wow. I'll have to, 5 minutes. Man, I'd have to, see, you threw me a major curveball. I'd actually have to, I wasn't ready for that.
Well, it doesn't have to be a 5-minute excerpt. It can be a 2-minute excerpt, and we can vamp till ready.
Yeah, I actually, if I could find the piece, because there is a passage that I actually enjoy reading. But see, now you really threw a little curveball at me, because I really wanted to discuss what happens with Dale Cameron, and
Well, go ahead and do that then.
I completely wasn't ready for that.
Go ahead.
That you got me. You got me. I just was not ready to read something from a passage, but there is a scene where Dale Cameron encounters the Beast in Wicked Prayers, and he is standing in an alley, and he's looking for the creature. The creature is a gorgeous man. If you've watched, there's a Stars TV show with the tall Irishman in it, and the woman leaps back and forth through time. And if you could imagine, and suddenly I can't even think of his Sam, I can't, the actor's name. But at any rate, I envision the Beast as this very charming individual, and he would speak with an accent, but he can he spurts these tentacles from the center of his chest so that he can eat the hearts of his victims. He can leap tall buildings, and he's very strong, and he's very violent and dangerous. Okay, and like I said, he can spur creatures from his being, the leapers. Well, anyway, Dale Cameron encounters him, and he's chasing after him. And the Beast had just killed 2 victims and left them dying in an alley. And Dale Cameron comes across these individuals, and they're laying there in this alley, and there's a pool of water there. And Dale Cameron looks down because he sees an image in the water, and he can see the Beast creeping up the side of a building. And he says that he's been in the military and through all sorts of training, but for the first time, his steely gun hand is shaken. And normally he's a very steady man, but for the first time in his career, his steely gun hand is shaken. And this is the first time that he's ever been terrified. So I wasn't prepared to read that. It's much better if I read it to you. So again, my apologies, audience.
We've only got 1 minute anyhow at this point.
But that's one of my favorite passages. And there's another great scene in the book too, where Dale Cameron is talking to a guy. About losing his father, and they lost his father's ashes, and that happened to me in real life. The funeral home actually lost my father's ashes.
Oh, no.
And so he's talking to his uncle, and I think that's a really funny scene too. So there are a bunch of those funny scenes, and the book, the creature in there is really inspired by the Leviathan in the book of Job. And the only people who caught that were Kirkus reviews. So, but the book is not religiously pedantic. But like I said, it is scary. Some people find it very humorous, but I do love the story. But I'll stop going on. Stop.
Well, our time is up anyhow. So thank you very much. My guest this half hour has been S.D. Moore, otherwise known as Sherlann, who is the author of numerous works of all different sorts and does it in spite of physical challenges. God bless her. And SD or Sherlann, thank you very much for being on the show. Good luck with your books, your screenplays, and everything else you're working on, and your health. Okay.
Thank you so much for having me, and everybody, keep on fighting. Keep fighting.
Good words to remember. And In the Spotlight is brought to you by Crimson Cloak Publishing, publishers of a wide variety of books, fiction, nonfiction, children's, adults, all sorts of books, everything except erotic romance. This is Cynthia MacGregor. I'll see you next week, reminding you to pass a smile along, and bye now.
You've been listening to In the Spotlight with your host, Cynthia MacGregor, brought to you by Crimson Cloak Publishing. For a wide variety of books for both adults and children in print, ebook, and audio formats, join us every Tuesday at the same time as In the Spotlight brings you interesting guests to entertain and enlighten you. I'm Carly McCracken. On behalf of Crimson Cloak Publishing, thank you for joining us, and we hope you'll join us again next week.